Black revolutionaries, distillery owners, Italian fashion retailers, and Motown Grammy winners all share their best stories never before told in any other media outlets on Detroit is Different. Visit DetroitisDifferent.com or download the Detroit is Different app on Apple's App Store or Google's Play Store.
All right. We are back in full effect in the Detroit is Different podcast studios. And this is Kari Frazier. And I'm here with one of my OGs and friend. I ain't seen him in a minute. Comrade, good brother Ishmael. How you feeling, my brother?
Bro, I'm glad to be alive, man. Glad to be up above God's earth, bro.
Yeah, man. I've been trying to get you in full effect for a minute now, man.
Yeah. Our schedules was, bouncing up. We play a little tag, but we good.
It is, man. It is what it is. So, we're going to get into the usual Detroit is Different story, and then I want you to talk about some of the projects you're working on,
okay.
And I want you to talk a little bit about your past in Detroit hip-hop and your ties to it.
Okay.
Because arts, music, hip-hop culture, breaking, that's you.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so we're going to open up with your family and Detroit ties. What was the first group set of your family? Was your mom born in Detroit? Was your grandparents born in Detroit? Who was the first people that made their way to Detroit?
Well, both of my parents are from Huntsville, Alabama.
Huntsville, Alabama.
Yeah, and they met in Alabama, and my dad took the plunge into the whole job market of the auto industry or what other opportunities were available here, and
okay.
Shot himself right over there in Southwest Detroit.
Okay, about what time did they move up this way?
I'm looking at maybe 1940 or late 40s or early 50s.
Wow.
Late
okay.
40s or early 50s.
Okay. And Huntsville, Alabama, whereabouts is that?
Huntsville is NASA's capital. That's one of the places where NASA is located. It's the capital of Alabama's Birmingham. So Huntsville is sort of like Highland Park and Hamtramck to Birmingham.
Okay. All right. So you been down there?
Many times, bro. Like,
what's it like?
It's country. A lot of acres, land. My grandmother lived to be 105, and she lived on a nice bit of acre. Had an old tin house. I don't know if too many Detroiters seen these type of houses, but it's like a shed. It was tin. She had an outhouse. That was my first traumatic experience of having to use the outhouse at a young age at night. But it was very therapeutic, for me as a young man coming from Detroit, from the city life, going down there, walking up the road. My cousin actually was a little bit more. I would say progressive as a southern, house. His was actually better than some houses in Detroit. Actually, it was better than my house in Detroit. Air conditioned, made from the ground up. Big rooms. So like the Brady's house. It reminded me of the Brady's house. The style of it.
Okay.
But yeah, so it was an interesting trip for like maybe 15 to 20 years straight.
And you talk about the tin houses, and I've seen some tin houses.
Yeah.
As like I've seen the shotgun houses, just like some of those original designs. Actually, behind this house right here. So I don't know if people recognize it. Like it's a small house, as people say. It's a little house behind your house. It's a small house that was built for my great grandmother.
Whoa.
And it's a shed that was built by my great uncles. So her sons, and they built the shotgun house. So they built the house on center blocks. Off the ground.
Yes.
And that's kind of like in the style of the shotgun house.
Oh, shotgun house.
That's what the tin house is. The tin house is like obviously the material too and everything.
Yeah, that's exactly what I meant by.
But the roofing for I think a tin house is like different, and even plumbing, that's the thing about the house behind us. But you say outhouse, and outhouse is, as they say, them snakes.
Traumatic, bro. Just the thought of what could get shoot up at me. But when you gotta go, you gotta go. So I think it built a lot of character with me. At the time, trauma sometimes is just that what it is. But if you make it through things like that, they build some sort of character. They give you some sort of edge of dealing with things that are hard to deal with, like survival technique. It made me understand having a commode that flush compared to not having a commode that flush that's outside, to where hardship, when it came, I guess it would come to me, I sort of like I could reflect back to that and, toughen up,
So from that, Southwest Detroit. And it's a couple people from that Southwest neighborhood that came up around that 60s, 70s, 80s time. It was a different culture over there, even to this day, for the black families in Southwest Detroit. Because when most people think Southwest Detroit, a lot of people think the Chicano culture that's over there. But it's also a very strong, close-knit history of black entrepreneurship, families, a lot of people like Kevin Hansen.
Yes, sir.
A lot of people really probably shout out Big Meech, as you know, Demetrius.
Yes.
A lot of people shout out Monica Conyers.
Yes.
And there's many families just from over there, like that downriver, close to River Rouge.
Yes.
What was it like growing up over there?
Bro, I look at it today as a blessing because of the close-knit community and all the experiences that we had. It wasn't, saturated with a lot of people trying to keep up with the Joneses. Of course, you had factions of people who tried, even in that small community. But on a whole scale, I played Little League Baseball, played with Anderson Hunt, I played with Antoine Delbert, played with Bernard Anderson, guys that went on to play big league baseball, in the major leagues. Got to play basketball. I was at Southwestern High School with Perry Watson, coaching a great basketball team. So the culture out there gave me an opportunity to grow and enjoy what a kid should be able to enjoy. Playing baseball, going to the park, community center, and those things without a lot of worrying about, gangs and fighting and drugs. We really didn't have any of that over there. We didn't have, any fights we had, everybody in the whole community knew it was a fight. Like they actually knew, and somehow the parents were going to talk it out or they were going to scrap it out. But it was just a way that I grew up, that I look up to now and say, I thank God for having that opportunity to be in a position to be around Latinos, whites, because when they started busting in the area, they busted to Jeffries Elementary, which was right there in the area called Southwest Detroit. We called the Hole, which was actually where Big Meech and Demetrius and Terry grew up at, which was like the back end of where the dump site was. Because Southwest Detroit actually was that. It was meant to be part of the last spots of the city of Detroit to dump all the waste there. It was all for dumping. And so actually the owners of the plants kind of took it upon themselves to like smooth it out somewhat, just to make room for them to get some workers to come and live over there. My father's house, I think he got it for $5 a plot, and I got pictures of it like, when it was dirt, but it was built up on a dump site basically, and that's why if you go out there now, you definitely gonna gag. It still smells.
Now, you talk about this history, and I want you to touch on that because it's definitely been environmental issues with that community for a long time, and you grew up over there. But
yeah.
That black community that was over there, like Kevin talks about the doctors, the dentists, like it still having so much of almost like the feel that when people think of a segregated or a Paradise Valley or something like that, like did you know your dentist? Did you know your doctor? Like, was it that close knit?
Yeah, and it was so much of an acknowledgement for me to have that I did not, absorb it as being, anything abnormal or, immaculate or in some way. Actually, Dr. Carson, Ben Carson lived his house was across the street from the house that I live in, that I grew up in. Mm-hmm. Didn't know he went to Southwestern. Mm-hmm. So it was more so, I guess, the way it was set up for people to actually thrive led them to have a little bit more, I would say, inspiration to do better because of the downtrodden way Southwest was portrayed around the world. Like it was, a lot of people did know that Southwest Detroit was a dump site that smelled, or so it was a lot of people who really got to really fight the fighting spirit to go on, and I think that's where a lot of the winning attitudes and a lot of the very like strong-minded people became successful. As myself, I feel as though Southwest Detroit made me who I am because it gave you a different edge without a lot of, you didn't have a lot of things that sort of like took your attention away from going to school, being good at some sport over there. Like a good old, it's like a black good, one of those good old towns in America they talk about. But this one happened to be a black town.
So did you start noticing the differences in other parts of the city of Detroit as you started traveling out?
Oh, yeah. Immediately. My first incident, I guess the east side, the most memorable one was I went to the east side, and I was with my wife at the time. And it was actually some gunshots going on the street when we got there. And I'm in her house. I'm dropping on the ground. She looks at me. She said, "Oh," she looks out the window. Oh, she's like, "Oh, that's Rico and them, blah, blah, blah." And I'm thinking, what? I was like, that don't happen where I come from. I've never heard a gun go off anywhere in my whole area of Southwest Detroit growing up in all 18 to 19 years living there. Mm-hmm. Never. So I seen a way the east side was compared to that. Like, I didn't feel a community. I didn't feel a sense of community. Mm-hmm. I felt like, a lot of people sort of like, going through hard times or not maybe going through hard times, but displaying a very aggressive like nature towards each other. And that was the east side. So that was my first experience of seeing something different, other than seeing something different when it comes to like white neighborhoods, like the Grosse Points. I had a couple of girlfriends come from Grosse Point. White girls come visit us and take us, and they got bowling alleys in the basement, and they living outside of a river. We go outside in their backyard. It's the river, whatever river that is. Mm-hmm. They got boats in their backyard. So I knew that Southwest was different from a lot of the other neighborhoods. And what I really realized that Southwest was leaving, going towards South. So I started thinking about it like that. Like, okay, maybe this was, close to Toledo, and then Toledo, you're Ohio. So maybe this was almost not Detroit, like Toledo was, was almost Detroit, but not really Detroit.
What were some of the places you guys would like hang out at that, were you guys further down river in River Rouge? Was it an arcade? Was it a roller rink?
Right there on Schaefer, still there today. Rollercade skating rink, still there today. Got a Facebook page. People still go skate there after like maybe 50. They just did a 50-year anniversary. We had a place called Kimney Center, which was right next to that big marathon baseball. If anybody on 75 see the baseball, actually it's a Piston basketball too. That's right. The park is right there. Had 3 baseball fields. Really kept up baseball fields. That was it. Kimney Center and a skating rink. And of course, Ecourse and River Rouge was actually adjoined. It's like, to me, the same neighborhood. We would go to a skating rink over there, and another basketball court in River Rouge, but mostly just parks, outside activity, bro. Like outside activity, like stuff that I still think to this day is the best way to like grow into like understanding how to like enjoy life, playing outside.
And you said the skating rink, 50 years. That's something.
It may be even older than that. It's called a rollercade skating rink. It's amazing. It's amazing that it's still there. The family is a family-owned skating rink. They do a lot of good things in the community now. I've been noticing when I go out there, they have like days where they feed the community, skates for kids. A lot of things that show me that part of the community is a staple because it's still there and it's actually doing something now in 2020. If I went out there now, I'm pretty sure I can ask them, what are you guys doing? And they'll have an agenda. So,
all right. So while your father was working in the plant, what was your mom doing?
Mom was a stay-home mom. My mom's beautiful woman. She's 93. She's still alive. She has a twin that she talks to every day. She has a brother who's turning 105, I think, next week, They all talk every day. They've been talking every day for the last, I guess, 70 or 80 years.
Wow.
So she was a stay-home mom, a church-going woman. Like that's her world. She stayed in the church.
What church?
Church was called the Lamb of God in River Ridge on Palmerston. And that was it. That was her life. She stayed in the church every Sunday. Of course, that meant that I was in church every Sunday and in the choir practice, and all the other stuff, Bible school, all of that. That was part of my life because of her dedication to her belief.
All right, now as we get into that, you talked about roller rink culture, which is connected a little bit to the hip hop culture. When did you start connecting with hip hop?
Okay, so in about 5th grade, I got to watch an episode of, maybe, I don't know if it was the 5th, maybe it's a little bit later, an episode of What's Happening. And Shabba-Doo and the Hollywood Swingers were like special guests on the show. And they were doing something called locking. But before then, I would every now and then see a couple of people doing this particular type of dance on Soul Train. And it caught my attention because as a young kid, my brothers had all the music of Motown. I got 3 brothers, and they all bought records. Their whole thing was competition of records. It used to be fights. They had fights over albums, like beautiful albums, albums that to this day that changed how my love of music is, because I got to hear all this stuff. So they used to, motivate me to dance. My brother used to put on James Brown. He actually called me a week ago, said, I was looking at somebody. He said, man, you used to dance your butt off. He said, he called me Mr. Bojangles. And I didn't know who that was, but that was what Sammy Davis was called. So he motivated me a lot. And what I did was take that, and I really got involved with loving the whole idea of dancing, and taking over a floor or getting that feeling of just jamming, what they say. So I watched the locking, and the locking went on to the next level of what we call dancing funketeering, and then pop locking, and then all while these things were going on, luckily there was a music being bred, like, in the basements of New York, or from Jamaica to New York, from Jam Maps, from African Bambaataa and his groups that were starting to rap, and so it tied into the dance immediately, like it was part of it. That's the subcultures, graffiti, dance, hip hop. All those things became one as a hip hop culture. So that connected me to the beats differently, because before I'm listening to the doom doom ka doom doom ka, then it turned to doom doom ka doom doom ka. So I'm like, okay. So the dance has changed. The dance has got more physical and more I would say aggressive. Like, I learned the story of the pop. The whole dance itself came from you know how as a kid guys used to like act like they're gonna hit you and like jerk their body like That actually became a form of what they call popping. I learned this. You can look it up in prison. Guys used to do that, to the point where they started moving with it. They started dancing. I was like, oh, so that culture sort of totally it magnified me to where I felt as though this was something ours, totally ours. That.
So you were already just dancing, like, I guess just in the spirit of black dance, like party dance, or I don't know what James Brown was. James Brown was talented, but
Splits.
I don't even know, like, I guess like party dance, soul dance. But that started to transition when you saw it. And that episode that you were talking about, rest in peace, John Witherspoon, Detroit. But that was the Disco Dynamite episode of What's Happening. That's when Rerun and them get into the dance contest.
And drop the radio.
Exactly.
Drop the tape player.
All right, so for anybody that watch What's Happening, we just connected. You need to watch What's Happening. Get up on your classic What's Happening.
Yeah.
So Shabba-Doo.
Yes.
One of the, many people know him from breaking, but also The Wiz, also really, I would say Soul Train, like, you know, the choreography connected to that. But as you say, more physical and a hip hop spirit with it.
Yes.
And you're like almost like picking this up. You're like really one of those kids that says like, I will watch Soul Train, see what they do, put my spin on it.
Yes. Yes.
And then go to the party.
Yes. That's the beauty of our culture, I believe, that through all the hard times and all the, you know, trauma and things that go on in our families and our life, you will hear some music. And that spirit is actually the time when we're rejoicing. So as a kid, I took that as the time of, you know, pride. Like, you know, this is how we can show how bad we is, you know. I didn't have a basketball, I didn't have a sport, so I was like, we can show how we move, how we get down and make people look at us and say, how that body do that? You know, how they do that? So I knew young that, you know, at that time when I heard music, that this was special. You know, this was for us. This was something that helps us to get through, you know, the days of hard time and, you know, seeing older people party around my house, you know, like you look at that old picture that's on Good Times, that picture where I don't know who the artist was, but he's painting and they're dancing. You can see their body shapes and forms. You look at that and say that's an expression of our way of, you know, enjoying ourselves through, you know, the struggles of urban life.
And as you talk about that, this is deep. This is deep. The layers, even that when we think about that interpretation, taking it into a whole new medium, because hip hop at first was hard to find. It was almost like searching for, and I mean, you had a tougher time than me because I'm younger than you, and I remember what it was like to like wait on a rap song. But in your generation, you probably had to almost like, it was like being in a cult or something, like a secret society to try to find something.
It was. Detroit is different, and I love your show for that because we started hearing what we thought we could put hip hop into, because we were hearing it coming from foreign places, you know. Uh-huh. Maybe one or two DJs might play something, or we were getting it, but it was like you said, it was like a covert operation, you know. And so the biggest experience, I guess, was doing the Motor City Break, which was a really big thing done at the club on Woodward. Now it used to be called the
on Woodward.
Yeah, it was the state. It used to be called the State Hall, the State Club right there on Woodward. Now it's the Fox, but it used to be a place where they did shows. Run DMC opened up for the Motor City Break, which was the biggest breakdance competition in Detroit.
Wow!
And kids came from Canton, Michigan, white kids, Mexican kids, Latino kids. This is the first time where I experienced what I had been seeing bits and pieces of what New York was doing.
So this is after Beat Street, because Beat Street, I think, put hip-hop on the map on a national level. Yes. To a lot of people.
Yes. It was, matter of fact, it was probably during the same time as Beat Street. But you know how Detroit, our culture was mostly soul music and, you know, Motown and legacy of blues and really good music. And hip-hop wasn't getting a fair shake here, radio-wise. I mean, even Electric Fire Mojo probably was less playing anything close to hip-hop if it wasn't really, 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 really big, you know. But so getting it was, I still to this day say it was divinity, like how I ended up meeting, you know, hip hop and brought it into my life, because it was not something that was very available for us in Detroit the way it should, you know, where it was in New York. So I think we did the Motor City Break, and I remember Russell and them, they came and they threw 25 groups out of one of the dressing rooms there, because we had the biggest one, because we had 25 groups. And they gave him a little room somewhere, and I never forgot him coming in there, cussing out the director, and throwing us out. And I just looked at him and I said to myself, God, he was a jerk. And then he dissed the only rap group of Detroit at that time. They made a song called Flamethrower Rap, Felix and Jarvis. And he said, now that y'all heard that shit is over, he said, now it's time for the real rap. That's how he introduced himself after they came off. He So I was like, man,
Did
Detroit.
Run say that or did Rush say that?
Run say that. Run say that. And he said, here's the real hip hop. Then, boom, 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 boom. Money is the key to. It was over. I was like, you could have talked about everybody. You could have talked about everybody, mama in Detroit. And when that came on, we'd have been like, yeah, yeah. So, but
I know Felix and them was like, "Hey, yo, I ain't never rocking with Run DMC."
Yeah. If you guys go back and look at Felix and Jarvis, they looked like Ready for the World, but they were rappers. They had Jerry curls.
But yo, it was a lot of cats like that. It really, even as we talking about like Melly Mel and them.
True.
In Beat Street.
True.
Because, like, the only premise you had really was the funk guys. Because, like, when you look at that, and I love Beat Street.
Yeah, me too.
I'm younger, so I like Crush Groove more. So older people look at me like I'm crazy. But,
yeah.
But
Crush Groove was kind of on the whack side. But
see, like I say.
I get you. Beat Street was as thorough as when they did Scared Straight. It was like literally on the streets. Hardcore concrete dudes breaking on their, wasn't no special effects. They wasn't trying to glitter it up, Crush Groove had got a little Hollywood.
See, I guess.
Beat Street was raw, bro. Like raw to, it was, one of those real documentary style movies.
So after, as this is growing and you can do it, were you still doing like all the other dances, or were you just at the regular parties and it's just like popping, locking, and breaking? How did you approach going to parties at the time?
I was in one of the biggest dance groups in the city of Detroit.
What was the name?
The Executioners. We danced against like a major group called the Funketeers. We opened up for Dirty Mind Experience, which was a group. Now this is me. I got recruited at a very young age. I was like in middle school, in high school, grown ass men, well, they was grown to me, came and sought me out because of my name was being spit around like, it's this little boy on Deaconbury Street, he good. And so a group called the Motor City Jammers came and recruited me, and I was going to the 5th grade.
Wow.
And my mother used to be like, what they want with you? And they used to be telling her, look, your son is dynamic and blah, blah, blah. So I was, brought into some of the best dancers in Southwest Detroit, a guy named Scooby-Doo who actually danced with Shabba-Doo, who went to L.A., came back and he did the wave. He came back and he did the wave, and I swear I went home and said, I'll never dance again. Because I tried to explain it. I said, Ma, I was like, this guy made his arm looked like water went through one end and then it went through his leg. And I'm like, I don't know if I ever be able to do that. I was just hurt. Like, this was amazing. So, times have changed. Now people see it and they think it's no big deal. But learning that and seeing that in the early 80s, it was mind-blowing, And Michael Jackson had got credit for doing the moonwalk when actually I seen this guy do that before Michael.
Okay, because all right, now we getting into a discussion. Because they say, like, Mickey Free and some of them other guys on Soul Train did it first.
Yeah.
But he was the guy to do it first.
It's, again, Hollywood and being opportunists. I mean, I won't take nothing away from Michael because he was a legend. He was great. And he learned how to do it. And he had some shoes on that made it really easier for him, too.
And then I remember Motown 25.
He killed it.
And I mean, like, the way he hit his tippy toes and then just, like, slid, it was like, damn! It was like,
yeah.
I was a kid. We was watching it in, like, like, ghetto memories. I'm upstairs. My mom's like, yeah, we gonna watch this. And I'm thinking, like, all right, we can watch some old school stuff. And, like, Diana Ross and Marvin Gaye.
Yes.
And then Michael hit with that Billie Jean. And my mom used to make me, the Faygo float where you got vanilla ice cream.
Oh.
And red pop. I spilled the Faygo float on me because I was like, I ain't never seen no shit like this.
Right. A culture of inventions that, again, we should take a lot of credit for keeping this country, innovative, not just from machineries and tools, but from art,
And creativity.
That was amazing to me. And the guy who showed me the wave actually did the float too. And literally he almost retired me from dancing because I went home, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I was crying when I seen him do the moonwalk, and I got home and had no idea how to logically put that in my mind, like he was going backwards but going forward, because he would act like he would go forward and he would be able to do it, and he'd be going backwards.
So he was almost hitting it as good, if not
better.
He
killed it. And bro, how about this? He's doing it on concrete, and what these shoes they were called Bruce Lee shoes. They were karate shoes.
The karate kicks.
The karate, the little.
Yeah.
And so it was it was an interesting life of dance for me, because that right there, like I say, it was something I went home and I trained in my basement. So like, I'm sad that we don't have Kobe here, but I love Kobe so much because I think about how I was determined to be the best at dancing, that I stayed in my basement almost 2 or 3 months trying to figure that dance move out. Wasn't no Google, wasn't none I could go and figure out. See, I just had to
YouTube.
I had to keep looking at myself in the mirror and say, how does feet do this? How I do that? How I do that? By the time I got it, bro, I swear it was like a light came over the house, like, oh. And I felt like, oh my God. I ran outside and I just, every 5 seconds in a dance contest, I just started doing doing the slide, and I win.
All right. So now, as you talking about this whole thing and then just capturing the vibe of it, breaking just itself is getting known and more known, but it's still like at the regular party, like as you talk about, Ready for the World, hip hop is still like kind of entering this stream of consciousness, but maybe New Jack, because I'm thinking this is like mid 80s, late 80s. When were you having the time to break at the party? When did the time for breaking break out?
Well, if you started breaking at a party, you may wind up getting into a lot of fights.
For real?
So breaking had to be, it was like you had to find a group of young men or women that were into it and get to the side. You guys had to practice on your own time, and you had to actually go and like take over a party with 2 or 3 people doing a simultaneous move, and then the floor would clear out. Mm-hmm. That's how it worked. You had to group yourself first. So that became special too, because some of the best people got connected, and then it became groups. Like where I came from in Southwest Detroit, we had literally had 6 or 7 groups. We had some of the best talent shows you would ever see. I mean, I'm gonna say it this way. I'll brag. You can look at my high school yearbook. I won Best Dancer, and I actually won 4 years in a row. Won first place at one of the biggest talent shows in Southwest Detroit, which covered East Coast, Ridge, and Southwest. So we had groups. It was at least 20 groups of young men and women that danced. A couple of them wouldn't go on to be on the American Bandstand on this. It was a dance contest on there, so it was really serious there. And actually, now this is kind of funny.
And any style of dance?
It was mostly pop locking.
Okay.
Mostly pop locking. Mostly pop locking.
Because I remember like talent show dance. It seemed like for about 25 years, somebody would come up with moments in love and like do some type of like chair modern dance.
Yeah, you was
stripper-esque routine.
Yeah, you would not. First of all, you probably wouldn't have made the talent show and where we came from, because our talent shows. Say, for instance, Anita Baker is from Southwest Detroit. She's from Chapter 7, Chapter 8, a group that was out there.
Yeah.
We beat her. We won. Wow. She sung. Wow. She sung her ass off.
I bet she did.
Should have won. But when we hit that stage and we did, you know how black folks is, them little motherfucker, oh yeah. And I still remember that at that school. And then I started thinking about her career as she got bigger. And I try not to, bring that up like it was a big deal. But I remember I was like, oh, she was in the show with us and she lost.
Damn. Ain't that something?
So the dancing culture was that serious in Southwest Detroit, where Anita Baker, and there's another group out there, Chapter 8, Anita Baker, her, and, actually, what's his name came and performed at one of our talent shows and didn't win. Ghostbuster guy.
Oh, Ray Parker Jr.?
Yeah.
Huey Lewis in the news?
Yeah. No, Ray Parker and the
Ray Parker.
and I don't know what the name of their band
I'm
was,
just messing with you.
but
Yeah,
they didn't win. But
Ray Parker Jr. He was on tour with Stevie Wonder, so
Yeah.
he was hit.
Well, yeah, he went to Northwestern High School.
Yeah.
You know, and Northwestern had a musical school, so
Yeah.
Detroit is musical.
Yeah.
Sure.
Foolish got a classic joke about Ray Parker Jr.
Really?
So
That
every
ain't
time
right.
I think about it, it's just Foolish is ignorant.
That's not right.
So, so this is all going on, and as you grow, when do you start teaching other people? When do you become like an OG in this game?
I was OG at a very young age because, like I said, I was recruited by the older groups in the city. And so by the time the scene and all the new dance shows, all that stuff was going on, I had to go around and recruit. And so most of the time I recruited younger people or people who were my age that I had to teach how to dance, taught them the routines. I mean, I made up almost every routine I ever was a part of, which I would say I would made up 20 or 30 routines as a 15 to 16, 17-year-old, for these contests. I mean, when I went into routine making, I went into the whole, like Jabberwockies, what they do now. Mm-hmm. I was doing that then, just making up concepts of making bodies do things, heads do things, and whole groups synchronizing and all that. So I became a teacher, as I was not a student, but a growing dancer, growing into my age
as well. So you were choreography.
Yes.
You were choreographing it, and you were still like a main talent in the show as well.
Yes.
So you was like Michael Jackson, Beyonce. So you was doing your thing, and then looking at somebody like James Brown, like, you messing up.
Yeah. Literally, I lost a lot of friends and gained some friends because a lot of times they'd be like mad at me, and you make why I want to go to practice when we ain't got to do this. I'm like, well, you ain't got to be in the group. It sounded like no big deal, and then to the talent show happened, and then all the girls in the whole school going crazy for us, and he standing there looking like, damn.
I should have been in the group.
And then next time he'd be like, I want to be in the group. I'd be like, well, you going to listen? Mm-hmm. So I was kind of hard, but I really did it out of love because I wanted to be the best,
So over time, and you've told me these stories before because I know you, where are some places that some of the people you taught went on to take dance?
Wow. Well, one of the guys ended up at Watts.
Okay. Watts, one of the
Watts Club, Mozambique.
The most known male entertainment clubs right off Finkel Ave. Further down than where I do my thing at the Andy, but many people know about Watts.
Yeah. And one of the guys went on to dance, and I'm trying to think of his name now. It's not coming to me, but it's going to come to me. I think they called him, was it Scooby-Doo or Pop Along? Anyway, he went on to dance in some videos. Actually dancing as a girl came out named Tiffany. Mm-hmm. A white girl made a song, really a pop. Yeah, and if you watch the video, it's a guy in a yellow suit, pop locking. Mm-hmm. He was one of the dancers that I grew up, we danced with in Detroit. I can't think of his name right now, but, I think all of us at one point realized that the gift that we had was transcending to becoming like mainstream.
It was becoming very mainstream, especially around like the 80s, 90s. And me and my homeboy Sterling, my homie Sterling, we was even talking about this the other day. It was like a stance in hip hop as much as like New Jack Swing was popular in late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
It was also this thing called hip house.
Yeah.
So like, and a lot of hip hoppers hated that shit.
Yeah.
But like pump up the jam.
Yeah, I was just about to say.
Pump it, and then like,
everybody.
Yeah.
Get on up and dance.
Yeah. But every hip house, and then some of really that dangerous Michael Jackson album had some elements of hip house on it.
Yep.
And every hip house album had like somebody popping and locking, like Paula Abdul, CNC Music Factory, Snap. Like it was like some of like the biggest songs in the nation was in that trend. In every video you see somebody.
And of course I was a hater at that point because I said, damn.
They compromised. That was your first stand up still like they compromised.
We didn't have agents in Detroit. We didn't have Hollywood studios. Yeah. That's why my friend that went to California ended up in the videos.
And even to this day, as it's still that dude, the young dude Shiggy. that came up with, I forget what dance. I want to say the Millie Wop or something, as they're saying, but the licensing on dance and choreography is so much different than any other form of artistry, because I make a song, it's like, all right, this is my song, you can listen to it.
Right.
I make a movie, you know, I write a play, I write a book, but I do a dance move. It ain't even like comedy. You could be like, well, I kind of was doing the Millie Wop in the shower too 3 years. You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you license a dance move?
Yeah.
Like, how do you get rights for it and ownership?
You have to find, I guess, the way, I hate to say it, is the way corporate America and the way capitalism is. You have to figure out a person who's able to think of some sort of technicality involving the steps, the counts of the steps of the move. Because other than that, it's so spiritual. Yeah. That's like someone coming to me and say, you know how in church they say people get happy, get the Holy Ghost or whatever. Mm-hmm. You're dancing, you know. And so all of a sudden, it becomes a dance move, and, you know, somebody else says, well, I made up this dance. Well, no, you didn't, because I argue to this day that there's no new dancing. There's no new dance. It's just all been like recycled. Mm-hmm. The only dance I truly think is really, really new is pop locking and the wave and all that. Because I look at the Williams brothers. I look at all these old dancers, I look at all the moves, and I can see some of the body movements in it. But I don't think none of these dances was like hip-hop, pop locking, whatever, because the anger and the struggle and the music of hip-hop, the whole rapping thing, gave it a different, like, texture. You know, it changed the texture of it. So everything else, I mean, you know, we doing dances now. They calling this and that. You look at the Charleston, you look at the steps, and you look, it's been done before. Then you look at African dance, you can basically see every form of dance that we've done in that. I mean, twerking is not twerking. African dance that's African dance, you know. So I really think that is impossible to, like, patent a dance step. But, you know, in corporate and capitalism, you know, people find ways of doing it. Like, I didn't even know. You're probably telling me something I didn't know. I didn't know his dance. I didn't know if I did a dance and tried to say it's mine that I can get sued for it.
And it's because the fight is this is a real popular game. I don't know if you're familiar. The game everybody plays. Man, all the kids play it, and like the characters, as much as it's like a mix of like every type of video game. It's like a little bit of role playing, a little bit of shooting game.
Grand Auto?
It's not World of Warcraft. Man,
it's not Grand Auto Theft.
No. But the characters can do dances.
What?
Yeah, the main characters.
Wow.
It can do different dances, and you can, like, you pay, because now the gaming experience is like you pay to have your character do different things.
Whoa.
And like some of what you can pay them to do is dance.
Wow.
So like you're playing with other characters.
Wow.
You know.
So if they do a dance step, you want to buy that dance step.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
And so somebody actually getting paid for choreographing the animation?
Yeah.
That's wow.
So it's almost like if you took it from this and then you put it into that, man, and this is killing me that it's not, because it's not World of Warcraft. Oh man, I'm such an old dude. I'm forgetting, but it's like the most famous video game right now.
I'm gonna have to look that up, because it's actually, again, one of those things that let me realize that
how culture has transcended.
Yeah,
how video game dance than actually go out and dance.
Yeah, and you can actually get money for doing something that I wish I would have had people around me that inspired me to use it as a form of, you know, economic gain. Because I would have been great at it. I would have been getting money. But, I mean, I looked at dance, it was like,
expression.
It was fun, expression. Yeah.
So as we get into expression and other things for fun, we really fast forwarded now to what your project of today. Real creative, and I'm gonna definitely bring you back, and we can talk more family and a lot of other stuff. But what's the project you're working on today?
I have been involved with the invention. It's a clothing invention, because maybe about in 95, 96, I was working with the Zah, my wife at the time. We were doing burlap backpacks, making clothing out of burlap, and this was something she got into because she was trying to have stuff to carry my daughter's stuff around, and we got really a following and got people interested in buying the burlap backpacks. We're going down the Eastern Market, taking the old potato sacks that they were throwing away. We'd take them home and wash them, and then she would show them up and make bags, and then it turned into a business. And the Detroit Free Press came and did an article on me and her, put us in a couple of fashion shows. Got with Maurice Malone, started touring, went to Toronto, got orders from Toronto, London, all over the world for these. They call them croaker sacks. We went to the Toronto, to their little Carabana Fest, and so. During that time, I was learning about how to put things that you can use and make them into a fashion, which basically what, as a people, we've done throughout history. We use things like on the plantation to make our job easier, So I was walking home one day and I was carrying my books and I had my jacket on and it was hot and I was tired of carrying the damn books. So I took my jacket off and I tied the bottom of the jacket up where you actually, what the last, but where you actually your ass and your body come out of. I tied that up, and then I took it and buttoned it up like like it was a person in it, and then I dropped all of my books in the little area, where we would normally have it on. Then I took the sleeves, strapped them around my shoulder, and was walking home with it, and I just had I think the creator, because I just had an epiphany like, man, I just made my jacket into a backpack. And this was during our time, I think during the time when I had been getting this list called the Black Inventors List. So that inspired me a whole lot when I seen this list of all inventions blacks had made, from the hoe, the washing machine, the lawnmower. Yeah, I mean, I had
air conditioner.
I got the list now, Kari, and it's how I get yellow and
like
wet.
Everything.
Yeah, I mean everything. The toothbrush. I mean, it's just crazy. Yeah. So I feel as though I was part of that legacy. I was like, okay, this is why we make stuff, because we need them. We make it for survival. So I've been having the idea of wanting to make a jacket that turns into a backpack for like maybe 15 to 20 years. And I tried it. I got help from this guy named Z, who makes clothing in Detroit. He's very known for starting the first black clothing store downtown Detroit, which was called, I think it was called Zoom, and another name. He actually, I think, had a hand in spectacles getting started. I think that was his first spot, which is Zana's store downtown. And so I got it made in Chinatown, and it was a nice art item. And I took it to Maurice Malone Designs. He was a designer here, and he was telling me, yeah, we have to learn how to be quicker, how I have to be able to transform into that, real quick when people want to display it. So, he said, you got some things to work out. So literally, it was put down. It was put to the side, and I was, getting into my MCing, working with some rap artists in Detroit, working with some music, working with some good good producers, making rap albums, writing lyrics and actually letting my freestyle grow, just becoming a good MC. And after a while, those things became where I seen Detroit as a place where we're overlooked for a lot of things, overlooked for talent, overlooked for, maybe they just, didn't like Detroit. Maybe Motown made the world so envious that the whole world turned against us as to trying to compete against us, so they started stepping on us music-wise, fashion-wise. It was happening in so many ways. So I just put it to a side, and what's blessing about it is, Kari, I was at work, where I work at Fort Phil, and I met this guy named Joe Ferris, who actually was on Project Runway in Detroit. We're just talking, and I tell him what I was saying. He's like, look, man, he's like, look, I can make that. And I'm looking at him like, you can make what I got on in my head, because I don't have a prototype no more. So I gave him the idea. We put it together. He came back, and he brought the most dynamic invention I've ever seen, something that the astronauts would use, something that armies would use, something that the dopest hip-hop kid would have if he went out, some of the athletes would wear. So right now I have a jack pack. It's called a jack pack. You can go to thejackpack.com and look at it. It's a jacket that transforms into a backpack, and then it transforms back into a jacket where you can have the backpack in a little area where you won't even see where it's a backpack at. And when it's a backpack, you can't tell that's a jacket involved in the inner linings of the backpack. So we're trying to get that produced in Detroit. I'm working with a couple of people. It's a young lady I want you to meet. She has a store called Backstitch in Highland Park. We may be having her involved with it. We working on getting some state funds to make it in Detroit, to have young kids learn how to actually put it together. We're going to have Joe Ferris actually come out and show kids how to put it together because it's very technical to make, but we're going to let them get certified and being a seamstress. We're going to give them a certification, something they could use for a job in the future, give them an opportunity to get involved in the fashion industry if that's where they want to go, but mostly we're trying to get them a source of employment. So we're going to make them in Detroit, make sure that we get jobs for people in Detroit, young people. So this was part of what I call social entrepreneurship, where I work with my master's in social work and trying to use this to have a social impact and use an actual product to help my community and my city. So that's where I'm at now, and it's all centered around what we just talked about, from dance to music to the city of Detroit to culture. It's all part of me and part of what keep my heart pulsing. Keep my pulse going, Detroit. So
that's what's up.
Yeah.
That's what's up. I'm going to definitely bring you back, as I already hear Piper downstairs, and she about to come in here and do her thing. On the network, make sure you listen to Piper Carter, another homie of yours as well.
Yes. I love Piper.
Chance, if you listening to this, but Ishmael's my homie. I'm bringing him back. I'm going to ask him more of the classic questions, but I definitely got to ask this classic question as far as like the Detroit dance scene. What overall is your favorite Detroit dance club in your experience of being a person on the floor? So, I mean, you can go back a long time. You can go back to the Network, Grand Quarters.
I'm going to go back further than that.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I'm going to say it was called
the Pontchartrain. People say that was a spot people used to hit.
It was actually Latin Quarter.
Latin Quarters.
Which is no longer there.
Mm-hmm.
But it used to be where some of the best dancers and some of the best dressed people go. I think if you look it up, it was a place where the actual dance called The Freak was made in Detroit and banned in Detroit.
Wow.
You didn't know that?
Mm-mm.
It was a song came out called Freak Out.
Yeah.
So Detroit, we got our own way of dancing. We started doing a dance where you got kind of close to a woman and you pumped in and out, back and forth, and it became a big dance here until a guy shot another dude for dancing with his girl like that. Yeah, and you can look it up.
That's been happening across. That's been happening culturally for forever. Like, but you was throwing stones. It's like, what is you doing?
Yeah, you can look in the paper and see that we made up a dance called The Freak. It was actually banned, and that club Latin Quarter was where it was known to get get the rocks off of it, because it was really, a hot popping club. That, to me, that was like me going to where Dance Fever was filmed at, New York. How you went in and had the lights, the Latin Quarter.
All right, now let me ask you this: as hip hop, because before hip hop was completely built in dance culture, even the greatest MCs, like to me, one of my favorite is Kane. Kane dancing his ass off.
Ooh, that boy is bad.
Even Heavy D, big dude dancing. But what do you think of hip hop culture now? Sort of embracing more dance, but like for a long time, hip hop culture almost like no dance. My generation was like, we ain't dancing.
Yeah, it was sad, because if you want to pay for a performance, you want to get the same feeling that you get when you see a basketball player dunking or a football player juking somebody. And if you're just standing there holding your nut, and just talking shit, that's not a show. And, after a while it burns out. That's why I'm glad where I see hip-hop going now. I watched the Grammys. I don't know what dude that was that had the blonde wig on or whatever. And boys were killing it. Usher was killing it. People are realizing now you have to perform. We need to be we need to have entertainment, because we go through a lot in life. So we don't want to just pay our money to hear somebody talk the same shit we can hear on the corner, cussing and talking shit. That's cool, but that's not performing. That's not entertainment. So I think it's going in a great direction. I think a lot of groups, like a lot of people, like in my opinion, like this one guy, Masago. Groups like the guys who are making music, playing instruments, and talking about hip hop in a way where we got to do better. We got to make it a music form that won't be laughed at when they do history, when they talk about history of music. When they talk about the history of music now, they could go back and laugh at some of the stuff, make jokes about us, make us look like monkeys or clowns. No disrespect, but I'm just saying that's something that it's not our integrity and our heritage of music. We made music.
There's definitely some coonery in one of my favorite art forms of hip hop. Definitely some coonery.
Yeah, we can't go out like that because that's a very important part of our history is music and culture and dance and art. And if we don't let it become the best and sort of like be leaders and pioneers, hip hop is a pioneer. It was a pioneer music. But it started being, big fugazi, boo crazy, all type of stuff where it lost all the integrity to be a pioneer music. Now it's going back. I see, I like what I see now with, a lot of artists. I have to dig and find them, or my daughter have to call me and tell me about these guys. But, she knows that I love my hip hop culture, and she told me not to become an old angry man about some of the stuff. And I listened to her. I said, you know what, I'm gonna give it a chance, but. In reality, she knows that this I take hip hop culture as mine. So I'm gonna get personal with it. If you're disrespecting it, or if you're gonna make it something that when they put it in the history books like it was a joke, it wasn't a joke. It was some very creative and powerful impressions.
All right, now very last question for real now, guilty pleasure question. All right, when you were in your heyday popping and locking. You also were going up against it, and it's a lot more history I see as people talk more about Detroit culture and everything. The Jitting guys. Were the Jitting guys the popping and locking guys? And were the popping and locking guys out dancing the jitters back then? The jitterbuggers. The
jitters actually were guys who could not, I would say, cope with the whole using every part of your body to dance type of guys. Who, in my opinion, they were like disgruntled dancers. Because what we start noticing is with our footwork on top of the what we call footwork, and we call up top, top rock. You got the whole spectrum, you know what I mean? And so cats who really can do up rock, they would limit themselves to do all the footwork. And that couldn't hold the crowd. That couldn't hold the audience enough. So I watched it kind of develop, because then a whole bunch of people who couldn't dance started liking the guys who did that, because they could relate to that more. Like, oh yeah, you doing all that wave and popping like nigga, we bought these feet, you know what I'm saying? but in reality, I was about the feet and the rock. Like, bro, I'm jitting and pop locking up here while you just doing one thing. So it kind of was like I seen it going down then. Like jitting became where it became like almost like a aggressive, like sort of like a tribal stump to be recognized, and it became really like machismo type bass. Before, when it was the real jitters, you have to get out these cats' way, because most of them was cats who would shoot you right at the club, because they came in there with certain type of shoes on that you wanted to look at because they were jitting in those shoes. You know what I mean? If they had on the BKs or whatever they had on, that so it was part of the. I call it part of the hip hop drug culture in a way, because that's what the jits was. They were doing that dance, like they'll take over the floor. So if I started dancing doing then, I'll probably get my ass kicked, And actually, the girls then were now turning towards these dudes because they know these niggas had a pocket full of money. You know what I'm saying? My dancing ass wasn't gonna be able to buy him a drink.
What about the dude just doing the Arrow Flynn that had a pocket full of money?
He had a pocket full of money. They'd go to him too, or the BK. Then that's the whole culture. The Earl Flynn and the Jit was that they go hand in hand. So I didn't put them in the art culture, but I give Strings credit and other people in Detroit who took it and made it where now people look at it and say it was an actual jazz form, and now I can see that when I watch Strings and I watch people tell me about the East Side guys that did it, and I give it credit now because now I see how they actually choreograph their movements to the music. So, it's still to me a little bit behind the pop locking and the whole break, the full dancing thing. But again, everything has its transition and changes, so you got to go with it. But I mean, that is Detroit though. That is all Detroit.
I like that. You said a tribal stomp. I love it.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to get you back. Thank you so much, sir.
You're welcome, my man. I love it, man. You know what I'm saying? We kick about Detroit and my history, man, in Detroit, man. I love it. Love
Peace.
it. Yes.
Black revolutionaries, distillery owners, Italian fashion retailers, and Motown Grammy winners all share their best stories never before told in any other media outlets on Detroit is Different. Visit DetroitisDifferent.com or download the Detroit is Different app on Apple's App Store or Google's Play Store.